Let's try this for the third time because the third time's the charm. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ned.
This is Chichay.
And that whining you hear in the background is Bridget upset because she can't go to Silliman Beach to run around with her friends. All right, it's been almost 7 months that Chichay and I have been uyab, boyfriend-girlfriend, if you will. So I thought I would recount the tale of how I met because it's actually fairly interesting, even though it's boring to listen to other people's relational arcs. Stories about other people's relationships is kind of boring. But this is kind of interesting because it takes a lot of the traditional Philippine courtings to task. It goes through the whole thing from talking to the parents and being interrogated by the brothers, being friend zoned not once, not twice, but 3 times, even though the third time was the best friend zone. So there was improvement. I was slowly being promoted, if you will. So I just thought we'd talk about it because, again, it's been almost 7 months that we've been together. Now, before we first talked, me and Chichay had actually seen each other. We saw each other when? When was the first time we saw each other?
December 24th in the house of our friend.
Yeah, December 24th. It was about a month before we actually first talked. And I didn't talk to her that time because even though she was cute, she's small. She's like 4'11". She's very slender. She has a baby face, in case you haven't noticed, which is good when you're 70. You look like you're 30. And she wore really loose-fitting clothing, so basically I thought she was 17. And a lot of other people at that particular party thought she was 17 as well. Thought she was underage as well. So we didn't talk, but we had seen each other. Then on the evening, it was a Friday evening. It was a fated Friday evening. It was January 18th, 2019, a little over a month later. I was down hanging out with some friends at one of Dumaguete's prestigious drinking places. What's it called?
Bogart.
Yes, Bogart's Bar and Lounge on the Dumaguete Boulevard. It's literally Dumaguete's best dive bar. You can book diving expeditions from Bogart's, and it's also a bit of a dive. Sorry, Andy, but it is. So I had been there with some friends. We were telling tall tales, anecdotes, outright lies, doing all the things usually foreigners do. We used to meet on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because at that time I was basically at the tail end of a 6-month horrible dating experience where I was meeting all these people and it wasn't working out, it wasn't panning out, and I had basically given up. So I was drinking quite a bit. Now, I hadn't drank too little and I hadn't drank too much. Much like Goldilocks, sans the locks, without the hair, I was just right. So it was a good night, and I wasn't really paying attention to detail, but at some point, you and some of your family, who was it?
My nieces, my nephew, sister, and mama.
Mother, yes. So it was nieces, nephew, sister, and mother joined us at the table. I wasn't paying much attention, but Chichay had sat diagonally next to me, and the first thing I noticed, as I did every time that I saw you, was this beautiful Canon 70D DSLR hanging around your neck with a battery pack, which makes it even bigger. Now, at the time, I only had a Nikon D5100. It did not have the touchscreen like the 70D does, so I was insanely jealous over her camera. And again, it was so much bigger than she was because she's small, and with a battery pack on it, the thing's huge. So I saw an opportunity for an easy joke and to break the ice, if you will. And I said to her, hey, that's an awfully nice camera. How old are you? Because what I was going to do is when she said 17, I'm like, well, you're much too young for that camera. You should let me hold on to that for you. But what she replied, she looked me in the eye and said,
I'm 22 years old.
She said, I am 22 years old. Now, not only was I shocked, but every other guy around the table that evening was shocked. Now, I didn't pause. I didn't hesitate. And I said right away, I didn't even process this. I was just like, oh, this changes everything. And I reached into my pocket and I pulled out the Ziploc plastic bag that serves as my Philippines wallet. And I pulled out a business card, and I was passing it over to her when my friend Peter said from across the table, Ned, you might want to give that business card to her mother who's sitting right next to you. Again, there was no time to process, there was no delay, I didn't give it any thought, I just diverted the course of my business card to her mother, who was sitting right next to me, and I hadn't noticed she was sitting next to me. And I said, here's my card, future mother-in-law. And everybody got a chuckle out of that, so it kind of did work. And we had a good night. We were all talking and laughing. Chichay regaled us with stories about working for customer support for a bunch of burner phone companies in the United States, Metro, PCS, what was it? The burner. Basically, she worked customer support for people that were cheating on their wives and other wives and drug dealers. And you mostly worked for Expedia. Expedia.com. So you worked a lot longer for Expedia, but you did work with the drug dealers. So she told us stories about that. At some point, I had quaffed enough drinks, and I decided it was time for me to head out. And when I got home, I discovered, and I drove slowly home because it was Friday night, I discovered a pleasant surprise. What was that surprise?
I sent you a friend request.
She sent me a friend's request. So I was all excited. I was panting like a dog. So I replied to her immediately. I jabbed accept, and I replied to you, it was nice to finally talk to you. And we ended up chatting back and forth that night for quite a while, just talking about this, that, and everything under the sun. And we finally signed off, and then right after that, I sent an email to my friend, to our mutual friend, who knew you and knew me, saying, listen, I'm going to do this the right way. She seems very nice. I understand the situation that the whole family is in relations to you guys and everything. It was a kind of complicated situation. And I just said, I'm going to do this the right way. And then over the course of the following weeks, we just talked more. We were chatting more. And we did start to hang out. But again, this is traditional courting. And things progressed for me emotionally, because I'm an emotional basket case usually. I started to really become attracted to her very quickly, especially after I saw her Facebook. That night we were messaging. After we finished messaging, I went to your Facebook.
Stalker.
Hello, stalker. And I went through all her Facebook. And usually, I was expecting to see the usual Philippines series of selfies and all this stuff. But there was none of that. It was just photos and videos of her performing, singing, playing piano, playing guitar, and
memes.
Memes. She loves memes. And it wasn't memes like politics and all that stuff. It was memes about
dogs, cats, and nature.
Dogs, cats, nature, puppies, kittens, all that stuff. So I was like, oh wow, this is definitely an improvement over the previous Facebooks that I've seen. Okay, but to get back to the story. So yeah, over the following weeks was slow. And we did things with your sister, her older sister, and she is literally the baby of the family. Your brothers and sisters are in their 40s. So she is the baby of the family. So Janice was with us, and Janice was going through a hard time. Hi Janice, we love you. You're our favorite NBI. If anybody needs any private investigating done, just talk to Janice. So we did a lot of stuff. We did a lot of activities in and around Dumaguete, visited here, visited there. We did astrophotography one time. We went down to Zamboanguita in the middle of the night to film the stars because we had never done that. It actually came out pretty good. And that was somewhat romantic, right? It was somewhat romantic. But we did things all together, and that was nice because when you have a third person there, it takes some of the stress and expectations off and all that stuff. But again, I had told her how interested I was, and she kept putting me in the friend zone. Once, twice, and there was a reason for that. And there's 3 reasons why I was in the friend zone.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
First is because I want to focus on my photography.
Because hobbies are more important than me.
No. Second is I want to focus on my sister because she was emotionally unstable at that time.
Yeah, she was going through a trying time.
Third is, because I have a very bad trust issue before because of my
previous relationship. And understandably so, we won't get into the details on that. So yeah, there was 3 reasons I was thrown into the friend zone. It wasn't because of my lack of good looks, wit, and charm, because I got those in spades. But she has some stuff going on. And through the whole course of this, when you want something and it's worthwhile, you'll make whatever sacrifice it takes to get it, especially when it comes to a good relationship. And I saw a lot of qualities in her that I really admired. So I was willing basically to do anything. Or in the case, because she was pretty explicit in her expectations, in not doing whatever it takes. Because, you know, she said there's not going to be any until marriage and all that stuff. Hey, if you consider our work to be of any value, consider supporting us on Patreon. If you're a Patreon, you get a free copy of my ebook, and we do monthly Google Hangouts. So consider doing that, if you would please.